Hey guys, PepperAmmy here. Now it's been a while since I've made bread, so this week we are making tiger bread. Now if you've never had tiger bread or even never heard of tiger bread before, it's a fairly standard loaf with a crisp topping that as it cools creates its iconic cracked tiger-like pattern. Now like all breads you will of course need a dough. So in a large bowl or the bowl of a stand mixer you want to combine 600 grams of white bread flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of white sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. Now if your yeast has been sat around for a while or if you've had it in the fridge for a bit, you can bloom it in the water and sugar just to make sure it's active. You want 350 ml of room temperature or warm water and 50 grams of softened butter. Now if you are mixing this by hand, you want to bring it all together, form it into a ball and then tip out onto a work surface and knead until smooth, soft and springy, or for around 8 to 12 minutes. Now as it is super warm over here at the moment, I'm going to be using the stand mixer fitted with a dough hook for around 10 minutes to save a lot of sweating in the kitchen. Once kneaded, form into a ball and place in a lightly oiled bowl and let rise until doubled in size. Now as I said, it's quite warm over here today, so I'm covering mine with a damp tea towel just to stop the dough from drying out and forming an unwanted dry skin over the top. Once your dough has doubled in size, knock it back in the usual fashion and knead for around 20 seconds, and it's time for the final shaping of the dough. Now for this you want to stretch the dough into a rough rectangle and then starting at the thinner end, tightly roll up into a log and then pinch and fold the ends over and tuck under the loaf. And then place seam side down on a lined baking sheet and let rest covered again for around 25 minutes. Now whilst the bread rises again, it's time for the topping. In a bowl, combine 50 grams of rice flour. If you don't have rice flour, you can use corn flour. But I'm not entirely sure how the corn flour would affect the topping as I've only used rice flour. Then 2 teaspoons of sesame oil to add a sweet, smoky flavour. Now you can use normal oil here if you want, or if you're feeling adventurous, using your favourite flavoured oil could add a nice twist to the topping as well. Then 2 teaspoons of white sugar, half a teaspoon of instant yeast, and 50 ml of water or more as needed, as you want a spreadable paste. Then of course a pinch of salt, and then let this rest for 20 minutes with the bread. After your loaf has risen, gently uncover and knock back the topping, not the bread. Then gently cover the bread with the paste. Now you don't have to use all of the paste, it is completely fine to have some left over, it just depends how thick you want the crust on the bread to be. But a thicker crust will mean less but bigger markings. But as it is a hot day, whilst applying the paste to the bread, I had air pockets forming as the bread was still proofing. Now if this does happen, you can just gently pop them and paste over the hole, and then let your bread with the paste on top raise for a further 25 minutes whilst you preheat your oven to 230 Celsius or 450 Fahrenheit, and you want to place a small baking dish in the bottom of the oven, preferably a metal one. Now after the 25 minutes and your oven should have preheated, you want to place your bread in the oven and quickly but carefully pour a cup or mug of boiling water in the pan at the bottom. This will make some steam in the oven, and then close the oven door to seal it in. Then you want to bake at full temperature for 10 minutes and then turn down to 200 degrees Celsius or 390 Fahrenheit and continue to bake for 30 to 35 minutes, or until the bread is golden and sounds hollow like a football when tapped on the bottom. Now if you have decided to make rolls instead of a loaf, you only want to bake it for an extra 15 minutes, not the 30 to 35 minutes. Once your bread has baked, place on a cooling rack and let cool. Now if you listen carefully as it is cooling, you can hear the bread cracking, and this will start to reveal the cracked pattern as the lighter bread underneath starts to show. And once fully cooled, slice and enjoy. And there you have it, a fresh crunchy tiger loaf. Now as you cut into this, expect to make a lot of mess as the topping will be very brittle and the loaf will still be light and fluffy underneath. And that wraps up this week's video. As always, if you like what you saw, let me know down below with a like and a comment. If you are indeed new here, feel free to subscribe for free weekly cooking content, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks for watching.